music or noise. The sound to which our ears respond might be classified as either music or noise.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of Low Limit Football on Low Limit Poker Radio. I am your host, Joe Usello, and flying solo tonight. Ben was not able to make it, so I'm glad to see SirBob is in the chat and in a timely manner. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kick it off with a kind of a light show tonight. We're going to go through the leagues. We are going to hit the Champions League and the Europa League quickly. Of course, we will close out with SirBob's ManCity Corner. But we will leave the previews to the World Cup and a few other things off the docket tonight. I don't believe Jeff Douglas is going to call in tonight. It's the Tottenham Spurs fan. I do want to mention that I do have the phone line open tonight, so if you guys are listening and wanted to call in and talk about a story that might have happened today or over the weekend, feel free to. The phone number is 504-208-5750. That's 504-208-5750. So we're going to kick it off right into Spain. Let's get right into the scores and some of the highlights here from this past weekend's play. Starting on Friday, we had was our featured game, Almeria 1, Osasuna 2, which I'll dig into a little later. Moving into Saturday, Rayo Vallecano 3-0 over Celta Vigo. Sociedad 4-0 over Real Madrid. We had Barcelona 3-1 over Real Betis with 2 goals by Lionel Messi. And Atletico Madrid with a 1-0 win over Villarreal. Moving into Sunday, we started out with a 0-0 draw, Valladolid and Valencia. Sevilla 4-1 over Espanyol with 2 goals from Kevin Gamiro. We had Elche 1-0 over Getafe, and Malaga with a 4-1 win over Granada. Ignacio Camacho with 2 goals in that one. And then concluding a little earlier this afternoon, we had Atletico Bilbao 2-0 over Levante. Going into our featured match, which was Almeria versus Osasuna. Again, Almeria winning that one 2-1. We had predicted, unfortunately, in that one, we had predicted a 2-1 win. A 2-1 win for Osasuna, and it went the other way on us. So one of the few that we've gotten wrong this season. Kicking off the scoring in that one for Osasuna was Oriol Riera in the 19th minute, followed by Alejandro Arribas in the 33rd minute, and Almeria taking one back with Fernando Soriano in the 73rd minute. Shots on goal on this one. Total shots were 16-12 in favor of Almeria and 3-2 shots on goal. Almeria also carried 58% of the possession. And unfortunately, other than the stats reading off to you guys, I don't have too much more on this one. As usually, Ben digs into this, and he gets a lot more of the Spanish coverage over in England. So closing that out quickly. Again, we got that one wrong, and I apologize for all the bettors. And moving into the tables, we're going to start out at the top, still very, very tight up there. We have Atletico Madrid on 79 points, Barca in second place on 78, and Real Madrid in third place, solidly in the third Champions League position on 76 points. Fourth place, Athletic Bilbao at 56, Sevilla on 53, Sociedad on 50, Villarreal on 49, and just outside the Europa zone, Valencia on 41 points, probably out of a European position for next year with about 6 matches to go. Propping up the bottom of the table, Real Betis, 22 points. They are almost certainly relegated at this point. Almeria next on 30 points, Getafe on 31, and Real Valladolid on 31 points. The only thing keeping them out of the relegation zone is a 2-goal advantage. Moving on, Osasuna 33 points, Granada 34, and Elche 35 points, and that'll round out the table in France. Moving on to our featured match of the week, we have another relegation battle on our hands. We have Osasuna versus Real Valladolid. Again, Valladolid is just 2 points or 2 goals out of the relegation zone on 31 points. Osasuna is on 33 points at the moment. Looking at the matchups between these two historically, they're nice and even. 2 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws between the two of them in the last 6 matches. Looking at their most recent form, we've got Osasuna losing 4 of their last 6 with a draw and a win in there. And Valladolid is 2-2-2 in their last 6. So really not playing terribly. Osasuna led by Riera with 11 goals. He was scorer earlier this week. And Guerra for Valladolid with 13 goals leading the way. And in fact, the second place on both teams, Torres on 5 goals for Osasuna, and Ebert and Larson on 3 goals each for Valladolid. So you're really looking at those two players in terms of goal scoring for this match. And it looks like we have a caller. Caller, you're on Low Limit Football.
Hello.
Is this Jeff?
Yep, this is him.
Jeff, how's it going? It's Joe. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm just going for a quick walk home, and yeah, so I could talk for a few minutes. Is that cool?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. You didn't see my my Twitter. We're doing a shortened show tonight because Ben couldn't make it in this evening, but that's okay. This is perfectly fine. I'm glad you called in. I did want to talk about. I was kind of disappointed that I thought we might not be talking about it. Big win for Tottenham today, huh?
Yeah, and you know what? Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it. I've been in school all day. But yeah, I saw the score. I saw what was it, 5-1?
That's correct. It was a 5-1 finish. I can get into the score box and talk to you a little bit more about it.
I did see. I saw Gilfie scored 2, Bayor scored, and Eriksson scored 1. Is that correct?
I don't think Sigurdsson had 2. I think he just had 1. I did get a chance to listen to the match a little bit, and I know Sigurdsson came on as a substitute. I've got the stats up here now. We have Adebayor, Harry Kane, Christian Eriksen, Adebayor again in the 86th minute, and Sigurdsson in the 90th minute. And Gylfi came on in the 82nd minute, so we really didn't have much time on the pitch. But it looks like, just on paper here, without having seen or heard the game, total domination. I mean, 5-1. You don't get that by not.
Yeah, and especially they also Sunderland had scored the goal at 17th minute mark, so they were also coming back from down 1-0 from at a 1-0 deficit. But I mean, I would expect this kind of performance against the lower side. However, I mean, you still got to be pretty excited if you're a Spurs fan. I mean, it's not like too much is gone. I mean, there's been some ups and downs of the season, but all in all, it's been somewhat disappointing.
Yeah, and when you combine today's result with the fact that United had a big win this weekend as well, just looking back at my notes here for the show, United took a 4-0 win over Newcastle, which wasn't no easy task, but they managed to come out of the doldrums, and they've been struggling lately. So you got 2 points between Spurs and United for that last Europa position right now. We've got 5 matches to play left. I haven't looked at their remaining schedules for either team. But what do you think of the chances for Spurs? Been a little hot and cold lately. What do you think their chances are of actually holding on to that Europa position?
I think I would say that they could probably hold on to it. Mm-hmm. And all in all, I think it's a tough decision because, as I've talked about before, you want to make sure that your team. You look at how well Liverpool and Everton are doing right now. And you look at the one commonality between them, other than the fact they both play in Liverpool, they both didn't have to deal with European football this year. And that's a big advantage because you don't have that game midweek. It doesn't stretch out your squad. You have fewer injuries, a better rested squad for the league fixtures. And, yeah, so I think that's a lot of people are pointing to that. I mean, a number of people have been, and they say, well, like, what's the point of the Europa League? Like, it's just too many games, tires you out. The games that you play aren't, in the Champions League, you're playing teams that are mostly in Western Europe. In Europa League, you play some teams from Western Europe, but you're also traveling all the way to Eastern Europe. Like one of the qualifying games earlier this season, we had to play in Georgia, the country Georgia. And so, some people are pointing to that and saying, like, what's the point really? But then I look at it from this perspective, where do we want to be eventually? We want to play in Champions League. We want to do well in Champions League. And I think the only way to do both those things is to prove it at a lesser level, a lesser Champions League, which is the Europa League. And on top of that, now it seems that the winner of the Europa League for next year will get to, will get that Champions League spot.
Just to give you an idea, I'm going to go through the last 5 matches for them. Okay, I had it up here a second ago. Here we go. So their last 5 matches are away to West Bromwich,
okay,
then home to Fulham, and then away to Stoke, away to West Ham, and then home to Aston Villa. So really winnable games across the board here. They really don't have any big stumbling blocks coming up over the next 5 weeks. Maybe that Stoke match at the Britannia is going to be a little tough. Villa's never an easy out. Fulham seems to be returning to a little bit of form, but I think it's too little too late here. So, I certainly see them coming away with the majority of the points in these last 5 matches. It's really kind of in front of them to be able to hold on to these matches and move forward. One thing I want to obviously, and I'll give you United's schedule in a second coming up, but one monkey wrench I want to throw in the process here is the fact that today, I believe it was Sky Sport had reported that there was an announcement that Tim Sherwood would not be retained at the end of the season. Now, this is something that no one's confirmed yet.
It's been reported. It's official?
No, it's not official. No one's confirmed it yet. Neither Tim Sherwood nor the Spurs organization. No one's confirmed it, but that was reported by Sky Sport. I believe it was Sky Sport or the BBC, one or the other, earlier this morning. But something
because it wouldn't be...
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it wouldn't be in Spurs' best interest. It wouldn't be in their best interest to tell them that now because they want the best results they can to finish out the season. And it's not like they have any... they're going to replace him in the summer, not before the end of the season.
Right, and I agree. It loses focus. It takes focus away from the task at hand and moves it onto the situation. So I don't think it may be true. Where they.
I mean, I think the truth is they already have Van Gaal lined up,
Okay.
the Dutch national team coach, and I think that everyone's just keeping their mouth shut because A, it's the right thing to do, and B, I mean, it's really all you can do. You want the best results out of the team, and I mean, and I think Sherwood knows it too. Sherwood using this position as a, it's like it's almost like a show reel. Like he's getting to play at the biggest, or not play, coach or perform at the biggest stage, and showcase his skills and abilities for another team, possibly a lesser team in the league. And yeah, it's pretty much how it's going down, I think.
I agree. Just to give you the idea of Man U's final 5 matches, they have 3 at home, so that's a little bit of an advantage to them. But their first match coming up on the 20th, which is 2 weeks, I guess, from now, is Everton, Man United at Goodison Park. That's most surely a loss for United. I mean, Everton, you saw what form they were in this weekend. They're trying to catch Arsenal.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think that's a game that both sides are playing for, and I think that if you look at this United side on paper, they have the talent. I mean, they have Juan Mata. Like, the guy's excellent. Really, really excellent player. They have other top stars. I wouldn't put it past... Now, if we're talking Man U, Bayern Munich, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. I don't think they could beat Bayern Munich, but I think they can beat Everton. I think it's a close game, and I think it's one that certainly if Everton wins and ends up making that last Champions League spot, which they very well could at this point. I don't know if I would have said that a month ago,
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of game that would be memorable, kind of like Spurs in the 2009-2010 season beating ManCity on the last day of the season to take fourth place. I think that game could have those kind of implications. It's
Right.
that big of a game.
Care to go on the record with a prediction for the score?
You want me to predict the score? Man U Everton? I don't think I'm qualified to make one, but I'd call it a draw. How about that?
Perfect. You want to go 1-1, 2-2, 0-0, 3-3?
Let's see. Why don't we go 2-2?
All right. So we'll put that on our feed. Ben and I,
Sure.
we pick a match every week. So we pick a match out of each league every week, and we predict a score. Now, obviously, I'd say usually we get them right, but most, we get them wrong. In fact, I was just wrapping up the Spanish coverage where we had predicted the results between. Let me just go back and find the match. I think it was Almeria and Osasuna, and we had predicted we predicted Almeria to win the match 2-1, and Osasuna ended up winning it 2-1. So I mean, everybody gets them wrong, So, but it's kind of it's good fun to kind of pick the match and just decide, just see how we do at the end of the week. So, but that's the first match coming up. Then Man U has at home in succession Norwich, Sunderland, and Hull, and then they close it out on the road with another tough one at Southampton. So, certainly, if you look at the two paths to the end of the season, I would say Spurs' path is much, much easier. It's an easier road to get through, especially when you don't have to play Everton and Southampton on the road. But, it's always on them.
I'm sorry. I just walked in. What exact?
Spurs are in the driver's seat, I think, obviously, in the
Okay.
situation. They're 2 points up. With
They are,
5
but
to
it's
play.
also, the question is it a driver's seat to the worst place? Is it worth being in the driver's seat? And that's something that I think the club's going for it, but the fans, I think they could either take it or leave it. Like, I'm probably of that opinion as well. It's like, if we don't get Champions League, am I going to be, or not Champions League, Europa League, am I going to be so bummed out? I don't know about that. I think it's just kind of like, sure, if we could get it, that would be awesome, but if we don't get it, it's not the worst thing in the world. Though, I do think that with our squad of players, I think it would be a good thing in the end.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. One thing we talk about, Man United was saying, "Oh, we don't want to make the Champions League. We don't want to make Europa. We don't want to make Europa." In the end, it's European exposure.
Well, let me just say one thing. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have maybe 2-3 minutes left. So, do you have any really pressing questions? I say ask those.
Like I said, I didn't tonight. Other than I wanted to go through the 5-1 win. I did want to talk about that. I did want to talk quickly, but we probably need more time, is to talk about the Soldado Adebayor thing a little bit deeper, seeing that,
okay.
But we'll definitely take that up some other time when we can have you back with a little more time.
Or you want me to give you a rundown of the guys? Because, I think a big question is, the Spurs bought a lot of good players. They bought a lot of talented players, and not all of them have panned out. I could give you a brief rundown of who I think is good and who, we're not sure about.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I think guys who've shown a lot this season, I had to name the ones who've really shown a lot. That would be Christian Eriksen, obviously. Today he was great from what I saw. Adebayor wasn't purchased this season, but he might as well have been because he's on the bench. But,
right.
You never know what you're getting with that guy. I think Nasser Chadli, he's a guy, if you saw that second leg against Benfica, he was great. That was his best game of the season. Did you watch that game by any chance?
I didn't get a chance to see that one.
Well, it's a good game, and he scored 2 goals in that game, and Spurs, despite losing that first leg 3-1, really rough way to go out. They lost 3-1 at home, but that second leg, we almost came close to forcing a tiebreaker. It was a really close result, and he performed great and showed why he's a Belgian national team starter. And yeah, I think he's got a lot to offer the team. So I think Eriksson, Chadley, a defender, what's his name, Chirikish from Romania is really good. Who else has played well?
Obviously, Lloris in goal.
What do you say?
Obviously, Lloris in goal. Although he was added last year, so.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Hugo Lloris in terms of their top performers for the year.
Yeah, that was last year, and he's going to be sold probably to Paris Saint-Germain in the summer. That's looking like.
I think there's been.
I mean, I hope he stays, but I have a feeling like it's kind of like the whole Real Madrid thing. Like they're going to come calling, and the truth is they're going to be willing to overpay. And the goalkeeper position, they're good goal. I mean, Hugo's top class, but there are good quality goalkeepers within the Premier League who we could buy. And it's not a tough thing. It's like you could find a good goalkeeper. Like Asmir Begovic is a great example. Plays for Stoke City.
Yep.
He's going to be wanting to move on to a better team like Tottenham. So, so I think pretty much those three. So Chadley, Eriksson, Chirikish have been the stand-up performers. They're the ones who have already, I think, adapted. I think the ones, and I guess, so Bentaleb wasn't purchased, but he's been great coming up from the youth setup. That was good. The one good thing that that's the one good thing that I think they did, that Tim Sherwood did, bring that guy up, Bentaleb. But other than him, I think everyone else hasn't really shown much. Like Paulinho's had glimpses of good performances, but hasn't strung it together and is disappointed a lot.
Right.
Soldado I've talked about, and Lamela never played, so it's hard to say. But I do think that in the end, we're going to bring in Van Gaal, the Dutch national team coach, and they're going to give him a run out and try to – I don't think we're going to sell as many players. I think if there's a player who – we're going to try to keep the guys we have. I think if a guy like Lloris wants to go, we'll let him go. But we're going to try to keep most of the talent we have and see if they can work with a new manager. I think that's what's going to happen.
Right. I agree. And the key is going to be the whole disposition of Sherwood and then moving forward. You think that's a done deal at this point, right, Van Gaal?
Oh, I think so, but I think that Sherwood has a lot to play for. Sherwood has a lot to play for because, first of all, I think if you're so first of all, Norwich and there are some other clubs within the Premier League that have vacancies. And I think that if you're looking at what Sherwood did, coming in, I don't think he had an easy task. I don't think he was the worst person ever. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I don't think he was terrible. I think it's really hard giving someone who wasn't even really involved with the first team. It's not like he was an assistant coach or anything. Like he was with the youth setup. He was kind of like completely out of the picture. And they said, okay, like we're getting rid of Andre in like halfway into the season, and then that's that, So I think like he I don't think he's cut out for Spurs, but I think that he's shown a decent amount, and the fact that he took a guy like Bentaleb from the youth setup and turned him into knew that he was talented, shows that he can use young players and can evaluate talent. I think that it's going to be worth a lot for a lower side that isn't going to be able to buy big name players. And he seems to favor British players. He's kind of like a Harry Redknapp, but on a lesser scale. He's a Harry Redknapp who has more of an eye for the lesser, for the homegrown talent. So I think, like I said, I think he's got value, and I think he'll get better. So he does still have a lot to play for.
Sure, absolutely. Anything? I know you have to run. Anything else you want to throw in before we have you on again? Before we let you go?
Yeah, I think for today we can call it quits. But yeah, just let me know some other time. Whenever, maybe in a few weeks or something. We could talk again.
Absolutely, man. I'll always love to have you on the show.
All right, great. Thanks. Nice to talk to you too.
Thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one.
So that was Jeff Douglas. You can follow him on Twitter, JDL382. He's a big Spurs fan, and I always tell the story about how one night we were going back and forth, and actually it was Ray Hudson talking about something about Spurs, and decided to invite him to come on to the show. He came on, and he was actually the very first guest we had. I think it was episode 20. And unfortunately, my radio failed that night, and it was the first time we'd ever had a problem with radio. But it failed. We didn't get him on, or at least we didn't realize that the radio was turned off until SirBob, until you came in and said you couldn't hear us. And then we realized that we lost the entire interview and everything. So I did check while we were talking, and we've been up and running, and I think pretty clear at this point. So very, very happy that we did have him on without a glitch. So let's get back into it. We were closing out with Spain. We ran through the table in Spain, and we were talking about Osasuna Valladolid and talking about their current form. Again, Osasuna, losers of 4 of their last 6, where Valladolid has been 2-2-2 in their last 6. Osasuna in 17th, Osasuna in 16th, Valladolid in 17th, separated by only 2 points. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to take Valladolid to win this one. I'm going to take this in a Valladolid win 2-1. So that's going to be my prediction for our match of the week in Spain. Ben, forgive me if I get it wrong. So, moving on. Let's head over to the French League, to Ligue 1. Starting off with our scores in France, we had on Friday Marseille with a 3-1 win over Ajaccio. Andre Ayew with 3 goals in that one for Marseille. On Saturday, we had Lille and Toulouse, 2-1 for Lille. We're going to go into that one a little bit later, as that was our match of the week. Lorient 1-1 with Evian. Guingamp losing at home to Montpellier 2-1. Bordeaux and Stade Rennes 2-2 draw. Bastia and Sochaux with a 2-2 draw. And Paris Saint-Germain 3-0 over Stade de Reims with Mandi with 2 goals in that one. Moving into Sunday, Monaco with a 3-1 win over Nantes. James Rodriguez with 2 goals in that one, and American Alejandro Bedoya scoring for Nantes. Lyon 2-1 over Valenciennes, and Gomi in that one scored his 100th goal in Ligue 1. And closing out the scores on Sunday, we had Saint-Etienne 1-1 draw with Nice. So going into our match of the week, it was Lille 2, Toulouse 1. We had predicted this particular match. I'm just going into my notes here. We predicted actually Lille 1, Toulouse 0. So we got the right result, wrong amount of goals. In this one, we had Nolan Roux with a 26-minute goal for Lille, followed by Salomon Kalou with a penalty on the 42nd minute to make it 2-0. Serge Aguirre with a 90th minute goal, kind of a garbage goal one as well. Had 2 red cards in this one. We had Frank Beria and Pape Soare both being thrown out. Beria in the 68th minute and Soare in the 69th minute, both of them thrown out for Lille. So Lille playing down 2 men to close out this match. Possession favored Toulouse at that point, of course. 57-43. The shots, Lille 13, Toulouse 10. Shots on goal, Toulouse 6 and Lille 5. So taking that one down on the Saturday match. Looking at the tables now, PSG comfortably in the lead. I believe there are a couple scenarios this weekend. I think a PSG win and a Monaco loss close out the season for PSG. So PSG on top, 79 points. Monaco in second place, 66 points. Lille in third place, still within somewhat of a reasonable striking distance. They're on 60 points. And Saint-Etienne on 55, Lyon on 51, and Marseille on 48 points, rounding out your top 6. Looking at the spread, we're looking at a 7-point spread from Saint-Etienne to Marseille, so probably not going to do it at this point, but it's still too early to say. Looking at the bottom of the table, Ajaccio, 19 points. They are certainly relegated at this point, as they are 16 points out of the safety zone. Sochaux, 27 points. Valenciennes, 29 points. And then 6 points up to Evian and Guingamp on 35 points and Nantes on 37 points. So we're looking like our race at the bottom of the table in France has pretty much decided itself for the most part, with Ajaccio, Sochaux, and Valenciennes looking to be the 3 to go down at the end of the season. So moving into our featured match of the week, we have Stade de Reims versus Saint-Etienne at Stade de Reims. Looking at the last 6 between these two, we have Reims with a win, 3 draws, and in the last 5. Reims with a win, 3 draw, and a Saint Etienne win as well. The Saint Etienne win was this season. It was back in November. It was at Saint Etienne. It was a 4-0 win. So looking at the their form recently, we have Saint Etienne with 3 wins, a draw, and 2 losses in their last 6. And Reims with 1 win, 2 draws, and 3 losses in their last 6. So doing a little bit of stumbling there. Led by Onagui with 8 goals for Reims and Hamua with 8 for Saint Etienne. We also a guy like Brandao who's been playing well. He's third in the team with 3 assists. So looking at this matchup here, I've got to think that Saint Etienne is going to win this one, even though they're not nearly as good on the road as they are at home. Just to go and look quickly at that fact, Saint Etienne at home, they are 10 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses, and on the road 6 wins, 3 draws, 7 losses. So they're not nearly as good of a road team as they are a home team. But I'm still going to take them. I'm going to take Saint Etienne to win this one, and I'm going to take it 2-0. Saint Etienne over Stade de Reims in our featured match from France. So, moving on to the Blockhead Liga, as SirBob likes to refer to it. The German Bundesliga, starting in Friday. Hamburg 2-1 over Bayern Leverkusen. And really, this one's an interesting one, and we'll look at the tables in a couple seconds. But Leverkusen really having a rough go of it recently, and got to think that they are in deep trouble to possibly slip out of even the Europa positions at this point. Moving on to Saturday, Borussia Dortmund 2-1 over Wolfsburg. Marco Reus and Lewandowski for Dortmund, with Olic for Wolfsburg in that one. Stuttgart 2-0 over Freiburg. Nuremberg losing at home 2-0 to Mönchengladbach. In the absolute surprise of the week, this is a team that we've been talking about quite a bit, FC Augsburg. We've featured them about 3 times over the past 5 weeks in terms of their matches. We've had them on quite a bit as our featured match of the week. Squarehead Liga, that's right. Augsburg doing what no other German team has done yet this year, defeating Bayern Munich at home 1-0. Bayern, as you had known, as we had even talked about last week, they only had 2 draws that were the only blemishes on their season. Possibly a little bit of a hangover from the Manchester United match earlier in the week. So, Eintracht Frankfurt 2-0 at home over Mainz. And then moving on into Sunday, we have Hertha Berlin 1-1 draw with Hoffenheim, and Braunschweig 3-0 over Hanover. So that is our matchup for the week. Going into the tables for the German Bundesliga. Again, our champion, Bayern Munich, 78 points. 20 points clear of second place by Borussia Dortmund on 58. Schalke on 55 points. And then Mönchengladbach in the last Champions League position on 48. Leverkusen just outside of it by goal differential on 48 points as well. Wolfsburg on 47. And then Mainz on 44 points, just 4 points behind Leverkusen, 3 points out of the Europa position. Augsburg is probably too little too late at this point on 42 points. Propping up the bottom of the table, we have a fantastic match coming up, or a fantastic run up to the end of the season for the relegation zone. We have Braunschweig on 25 points. We have Nuremberg on 26. We have Hamburg on 27, and Stuttgart outside the relegation zone also on 27. 2 goals outside the relegation zone. We have Freiburg on 29 and Hanover on 29 as well. And then up to 12th place, Werder Bremen is on 33 points. So, we're looking at quite a bit there. So, moving on into our featured match of... we'll go into our match that we had chosen earlier in the week. Apologize for that. I got distracted on Skype there. We had our Stuttgart versus Freiburg, and Ben had predicted a 1-1 draw, and I had predicted a 2-1 win for Freiburg in this one, and we both got it horribly wrong. Stuttgart with a 2-0 win over Freiburg. Alexandru Maxim with a goal in the 69th minute, and Martin Harnik in the 89th minute, the goal scorers for Stuttgart. Time of possession, 56% to Stuttgart versus 44% for Freiburg. Shots, Freiburg 18, Stuttgart 12. Shots on goal, Freiburg 8, and Stuttgart 5. So that is the recap of our second wrong match of the week. Our featured match this week, and unfortunately, we just featured it because it's the top two teams in the league. Bayern Munich at home versus Borussia Dortmund. Now, both these teams are playing in the Champions League. Munich coming home to play Man United. Dortmund suffering a defeat at the hands of Real Madrid. Looking at the form of these two teams between each other in the last 6 matches, Bayern 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. And I'm just looking for the actual loss. The loss was August of 2013 in the Super Cup with a Dortmund 4-2 win over Bayern Munich. But Bayern at home, it looks like they've won 1 and tied 1, and they're currently playing them at home. This is a who's who of German football. For Dortmund, Lewandowski and Royce lead the way for goal scoring. For Bayern Munich, Mandzukic and Müller. You've got Arjen Robben there as well. Ribéry, the assist man for Munich. Mkhitaryan for Borussia Dortmund. Both are strong in goal. But this one, I've got to think that Munich is going to get back to their winning ways after what's happened here. So I think you're going to see a Munich 2-0 win over Dortmund on this one. I don't think the match matters too much to either team. Just going back and looking at the standings, it could only be important if Schalke wins and manages to draw level with Dortmund. If our prediction comes true, then it won't. Then it becomes interesting there. But I don't think 10 points behind Dortmund have really anything to say about the rest of the German league. So that one is going to finish kind of the way we figured it will. So let's move on to the Serie A, my favorite league, SirBob's least favorite league. We're going to talk about Roma to start. Now, the key here that I want to talk about quickly before I get into the scores, Roma had an opportunity to make up their match against Parma this week, so they'll draw back level on matches played with Juventus. Just keep that in mind. But Roma winning their match 4-2 over Parma. We had 4 different goal scorers for Roma in that one. And moving on to Saturday, Inter 2-2 draw with Bologna. Mauro Icardi with 2 goals for Internazionale. Hellas Verona 1-0 over Chievo Verona in the Verona derby. Moving on to Sunday, Parma 1-0 over Napoli. We had Fiorentina 2-1 over Udinese. Torino 2-1 over Catania. Catania firing their head coach today as well. We have Roma 3-1 over Cagliari. And this one was interesting. Mattia Destro scoring 3 goals for Roma. He's kind of been on the edge or on the cusp of making the national team as he's been injured recently for Italy. But a result like this really shows that he's certainly an option up at striker, especially since you don't know what you're going to get with El Shaarawy. Balotelli's always a mystery, and they're really not sure of who they're going to bring as the 3rd or 4th striker. People saying that Giovinco's not going to make the team, and I can understand that certainly. So I think Destro making a little bit of a statement here on Sunday saying, hey, don't forget about me. I can still score goals as well. So that was done on the road. Also, after that match, Cagliari firing their head coach. So Roma 3, Cagliari 1. Sassuolo getting off the losing ways, 2-0 over Atalanta on the road. Lazio 2-0 over Sampdoria. And then on today's matches, Juventus 2-0 over Livorno. And our featured match, the match that we had predicted this week, AC Milan 2-1 over Genoa. And I'd like to point out the fact that we had predicted, or Ben had predicted a 1-1 draw, but I predicted a 2-1 victory for AC Milan. And I got that one right on the money for once, so I'm going to pat myself on the back. Adel Tarabat in the 20th minute, Katsuke Handa scoring in the 56th minute, and an own goal for Christian Abbiati in the 73rd minute, making it interesting. Possession, Genoa 54-46. Shots were 20-5 in favor of Genoa, and on goal 6-3 in favor of Genoa as well. Obviously, Milan making the most of their shots with 2 goals and 3 shots on target. Man of the match on this one by WhoScored.com, Philip Mexes, the central defender who's actually been a little bit of a mystery lately, but he did clear a ball off the line, so hence the man of the match for them. Again, this was played earlier today, so it wasn't something that I was able to watch, but I am patting myself on the back that I got that one right. So Moving into the tables, and apparently for some reason, my table is giving me, even though it says it's the Italian Serie A table, ESPN is giving me the Eredivisie table, so let me just reload it here quickly. And there we go, now we're correct. Juventus, 84 points. They are 8 points clear of Roma with 6 matches to play. Roma on 76 points. Napoli, 64 points, and pretty much solidified in that playoff position for the Champions League. Fiorentina in 4th with 55, and then we have 2 teams at 50, which are Inter and Parma. Lazio just outside of the Europa positions at 48. Atalanta at 46, and Hellas Verona at 46, with 2 teams at 45, Torino and AC Milan. I think for Torino and Milan, 5 points to make up, and especially to pass all those teams and make up 5 points is going to be a little difficult. So I'd almost want to say that they're eliminated. Hellas and Atalanta still have an outside shot, but certainly Lazio is well in the mix with a few matches to play here. Propping up the bottom of the table, as we discussed earlier, Catania, 20 points. They are last place, fired their head coach, who was actually a coach that they had started the season with, fired him, hired, I believe it was Paolo Di Canio's brother, fired him, rehired their old coach, and then fired him again today. So how's that for getting fired from the same job twice in the same season? Sassuolo, 24 points, minus 30. Livorno, 25 points. Then just outside the relegation zone, we have Bologna on 27 points and Chievo Verona on 27 points. And Cagliari in 32 points. Cagliari also firing their manager earlier today as well. After that, Udinese on 38 and Genoa on 39. They're going to be pretty much safe at this point. Really, we're only looking at Chievo and Bologna possibly to slide back into those positions, and I don't think we're going to see Catania climb their way out of this. So really a 4-team match between Sassuolo, Livorno, Bologna, and Chievo Verona for 2 spots in the relegation zone. And with that in mind, we're going to come on to our previewed match of the week, which is absolutely a relegation battle. It is going to be Chievo Verona on 27 points, 2 points ahead of Livorno. This match is going to be played at Livorno. Looking at their recent form, we're looking at Chievo, losers of 4 of their last 6. Livorno, losers of 4 of their last 6, but they have a win and a draw where Chievo have 2 wins. And in the last 6 matches head-to-head, Chievo has won all 6 of them. 3-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, and 2-0. Livorno managing only 1 goal in their last 6 matches against Chievo. So with that in mind, Livorno led by Paulinho with 12 goals and Paloschi for 10 goals for Chievo. With this in mind, I'm going to go 2-0 Chievo. I don't see Livorno scoring a goal here. They did play Juventus early today, and Fernando Llorente scoring 2 goals for Juventus. I didn't get into the stats of the match at all, figuring that it wasn't even really worth it. So we'll go Chievo 2-0 over Livorno to kind of solidify themselves and staying out of that relegation zone in Italy. So that wraps up our Italian coverage. Let's head over to what SirBob has probably been partially waiting for all night so far, which is the Premier League. And as I get that page loaded here, we had on Saturday the 5th, Chelsea 3-0 over Stoke. And let me just get to my notes here on these matches as well. Chelsea 3-0 over Stoke, 3 different scores in the match. On Saturday also, Norwich losing at home to West Brom 1-0. They fired their coach, Chris Hutton, right after, I believe today he was fired. Manchester United 4-0 over Newcastle, with Juan Mata scoring 2 goals, as Jeff had mentioned earlier in the show. Hull 1-0 over Swansea. Crystal Palace 3-0 over Cardiff, with Puncheon scoring 2 goals for Crystal Palace. Fulham with a rare win, 2-1 over Aston Villa. And Manchester City 4-1 over Southampton. And in that match, Jay Rodriguez for Southampton, who certainly was in the plans for the English national team to be brought in for the World Cup. He tore his ACL in the match and is out for the season, out for 6 months, actually, according to the reports today on TalkSport. On Sunday's matches, we had Liverpool 2-1 over West Ham United, and Arsenal 3-0 over Everton in this particular matchup. This was our featured match of the week, so we'll get into it in a few minutes. And then earlier today, as Jeff had mentioned, Tottenham Hotspur 5-1 over Sunderland. Emmanuel Adebayor with 2 goals in that one. So just going to head over to the chat here. And his firing was a joke. Yes, Sir Bob. I actually agree. Chris Hutton, did I say it wrong? Did I say Everton? Did I say Arsenal won 3-0? I hope I didn't say that wrong. Oh, I apologize. It certainly was Everton 3-0 and over Arsenal, which I'll get into. I do agree. I thought Chris Hutton was a pretty good manager. One fact that they said on TalkSport earlier today was of all the substitutions he made over the course of this season in the Premier League, none of the substitutes he brought on to the pitch scored a goal or had an assist in the match. So I think that's probably part of what was going on. But I do agree. I think he's a good manager. I don't fault him for what's happened at Norwich. And it's unfortunate, but you know how it is. It's what have you done for me lately in this world, and that's how they run. So back to the scores, 5-1 Spurs over Sunderland. Again, 2 goals by Adebayor. So let's go into that Everton-Arsenal match, which I misreported just a moment ago. Everton winning the match 3-0 over Arsenal. And really, at this point, you've got to think Everton is just playing great football. They're certainly taking control of all these matches. They look to me like they're a little high flying, playing with a confidence that you haven't seen before. Stephen Naismith scoring in the 14th minute to open the match 1-0. Romelu Lukaku adding one in the 34th, and then Mikel Arteta in the 61st minute scoring an own goal to give the 3-0 win. Going into the statistics in this match, Arsenal holding the possession 57% versus 43%. Shots on goal, Arsenal took 15-14, and shots were 15-14 in favor of Arsenal. Shots on goal were 7-5 in favor of Everton. So looking forward, now that we get into the tables, and I'm going to run through them real quick and then go back to this position. Liverpool, 74 points. Chelsea, 72 points. ManCity, with 2 games at hand, 70 points. So they're certainly still in the driver's seat. I think Chelsea is the third wheel at this point. Arsenal, 4th place, 64 points. Everton, 63 points. Spurs, 59. Man United, 57. And I don't think it's worth it to go down to Southampton. 9 points back of United, 11 back of Spurs at 48 points. On the relegation side, we have Sunderland, which has 2 games at hand, but on 25 points. Cardiff on 26 and Fulham on 27. Then it's 5 points up to Norwich, who are they have an important match, I believe, this week against Fulham, if I remember correctly, without looking at the schedule. But if they can solidify that match, take 3 points from there, that put them at 35. Put them at least 8 points ahead of Fulham at the point. I think they would probably be safe. West Brom on 32 and Swansea on 33, moving up to Crystal Palace and Villa on 34 each, probably in the safe zone at that point because there's a lot of teams in between them. Everton, Sir Bob saying Everton has a tough schedule ahead of them. Let's go ahead and dip into it because, again, Everton and Arsenal separated by 1 point. Everton does have a game at hand on Arsenal. So that's obviously an advantage. But looking at Everton's final matches here, which at that point they'll have a final 6 matches to play. As I go into the scores here, if I go into the schedule, if you'll bear with me one moment. They have this week on the 12th. They have they're at Stadium of Light against Crystal Palace, at home to United, which is going to be a fantastic matchup. Then they're on the road to Southampton, which is a difficult spot. They are home to City, which is certainly going to be a difficult spot no matter how you slice it. And then they close out the season on the road to Hull, and playing at Hull is definitely no easy task either. So, Sir Bob, you're right. I mean, the United match is certainly going to be something of issue. We just kind of forced Jeff Douglas into a prediction of that match there, I believe. Yep, he took 2-2 draw. I'm gonna sleep on it until we get to that point, but I think I'll be taking Everton in that one. And then Everton, Man City. So both Manchester teams, the only benefit to them is that they have both matches at Goodison Park. So that is going to benefit Everton. And, of course, I'm going to root for Everton anyway. And you're right. They play Sunderland, who's desperate. Crystal Palace is really playing well right now. Even though Sunderland is desperate, it just doesn't seem like there's enough in the tank for them to get them over the hump. I mean, they did have, I believe, a loss earlier today, as I reported. So they're really, obviously they lost 5-1 to Spurs, exactly. So they're really in a point where they, despite having, everything in front of them, I don't see them being able, unfortunately, to climb out of this relegation zone. I don't think they're going to be a part of that discussion. Now, I think the interesting part of this discussion is not so much Everton, which I think has some winnable games on the schedule. Sunderland has Everton. Sunderland has Man City. They have Chelsea. They have Cardiff, United, West Brom, and Swansea. I mean, so let's go back. They have Everton, City, Chelsea, and United. And they're going to have, although Cardiff isn't playing very well right now, but that could be an interesting little matchup. And Swansea isn't really playing well right now, but my God, they have one heck of a road to hoe here. So I think the key to talk about here is not only you want to talk about the Everton schedule for the Final Five, but let's talk about the Arsenal schedule as well. And now keep in mind, they are playing for the FA Cup as well. They have a match on the 12th against Wigan, where they are certainly big favorites to do that, but Wigan certainly has upset teams in the past. But their remaining schedule is West Ham at home, Hull on the road, Newcastle at home, West Brom at home, and then Norwich on the road. So they certainly have the easier path to get to the final whistle here. But Everton does have that game at hand, and they're in great form right now. And you could see a team like Arsenal possibly slipping against Hull, or possibly slipping, even though it's at the Emirates, against Newcastle. You don't want to say it's over yet, where they have an easy schedule and they could get through, but certainly the easier path of the two teams moving forward. So now, moving into our featured match of the week, I think on this one I am going to save it and save the analysis, the quick analysis, for SirBob's Man City Corner. That's obviously because it is Liverpool Man City on the 13th. So that's going to be the featured match for England that we'll discuss momentarily, but we're not going to talk about it right now. So let's move on. Let's move on to the Champions League and go through the results of this past week, and then go over the teams that Ben and I had chosen to come through this round. Starting with, on the Tuesday matches, we had in somewhat of an upset. We had United 1-1 draw with Bayern Munich, and another upset at Barcelona at home, drawing 1-1 to Atletico Madrid. Manchester really brought the fight to them on this match. I did see a little bit of it, and I did see a little bit of the Barcelona match. These midweek matches are tough when you're working. So, but certainly surprises. I think of these Tuesday matches, we've probably got a little bit of a tougher road for Barcelona than we do Atletico or even Bayern Munich. I think United is not going to be able to go to the Allianz and win. I don't even think they're going to score a goal, even though Munich will be without Schweinsteiger, who picked up a red card at the end of the match. I don't think it's going to affect them too much. I think they're certainly going to move through here. Barcelona going to have to go to Atletico and basically score a goal at minimum, and probably two to really solidify this one. I don't see, it's going to be tough for Atletico. They don't give up much at home. Ben and I both chose Munich and Barcelona. I feel fairly comfortable with the Munich option. I'm not so comfortable with the Barcelona match option right now. The only other match that Ben and I chose that we agreed on is the Real Madrid-Borussia Dortmund matchup. Madrid winning that match at home at the Bernabeu 3-0. Just going into the scoring in this match, we had Cristiano Ronaldo in the 57th minute, Isco in the 27th, and Bale opening it in the 3rd minute. This is kind of an expected result. You don't see Dortmund's playing well, but not nearly as well as Real Madrid at the moment, even though they had slipped in the league over the past couple of weeks with the El Clasico losing that match to Barcelona. Madrid holding 61% of the possession in this matchup, and certainly deserving to move on Going to be interesting to see who they pick up as an opponent in the next round. The match or the match up that Ben and I disagreed on, and I really took them because I feel like we're not talking about this team enough, and that's what I said last week. Ben took Chelsea, I took Paris Saint-Germain, and this is really a bittersweet victory for PSG. Excuse me, showing a little bit of muscle at the in France, at home at the Parc des Princes. But the sad news here, yes, I know no Italian teams are left Serie A is awful. They're not that awful, but anyway, this is bittersweet for Paris Saint-Germain. They took a commanding lead in a game that was going to be a difficult game. They were really flying high. Ezekiel Lavezzi in the 3rd minute, opening it up right away. Eden Hazard adding the penalty kick in the 27th, but then and it was a botched corner, but the David Luiz own goal in the 61st, and then Javier Pastore adding what could potentially be seen as a garbage goal, but I kind of like it because it adds that extra step that Chelsea needs to take to advance. But Pastore scoring in the 3rd minute of injury time in the 90th minute to really, hammer home and put the stamp on this one and really close it out. Now, the bad news for this is the loss of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Ibrahimovic, and I believe it was the early second half, tearing his hamstring and is out for 4 weeks and will miss the second leg and I believe at least the first leg of the semifinal of this matchup. So really, really a tough blow. I think, this is kind of the silver lining that Chelsea has to take around that gray cloud that's going to hover over Stamford Bridge. And yes, they are in the top 10. Juventus is still ranked in the top 10. And I think even Roma was ranked in the top 10, SirBob. Yes, in the top 10 in Europe. I forget where I saw it. I was doing a little homework last night, and both Roma and Juventus were ranked in the top 10 in Europe. So, sorry. So the bittersweet lining or the silver lining around this gray cloud over Stamford Bridge is the fact that they won't have to deal with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They really have an opportunity, and you can't count Jose Mourinho out now that he's got one less person to worry about as well, and he's a much bigger less person in Ibrahimovic. I don't think they should be as down on the prospects of what's going to happen this week at Stamford Bridge, and that match I believe is on Tuesday. So tomorrow at 2:45 Eastern will be the Chelsea, the second leg of the Chelsea PSG match. I think they can. I think Chelsea can still move through. My worry is that PSG, they do have a great back line. They have Maxwell, Thiago Silva, Alex, who really had a great game on this one as well, and Jallet playing in that back line. They have Thiago Motta in the midfield with Matuidi, who also had a great game this past match. He was actually man of the match, according to WhoScored.com. I think you can. I think PSG. I like my prediction. I like my chances. And again, they've got a healthy Cavani. It's not like they don't have people that can't score. They have Lavezzi. They have Cavani. Lavezzi scoring in the 3rd minute in this match last week. So I think you're going to see PSG move through, and at the expense of a very, very good Chelsea team, unfortunately. So moving on, let's move on into the Europa Leagues and close out our European coverage, and then we'll hit SirBob's ManCity Corner, which eventually, SirBob, I have to come up with some music for this one, but we'll move on into the corner and cover the match between Liverpool and ManCity. So moving on into our UEFA Europa League coverage, just to give you a rundown on the matches, Ben and I both chose Benfica over AZ Alkmaar, and Benfica winning the first match away 1-0, which is a huge, huge win. I don't see Benfica messing that one up from there. They're going to go home with an away goal in their pocket, which is fantastic. So, the second match I want to talk about is the Porto match. Porto over Sevilla 1-0. Ben and I both have Porto in that one. That's a home goal, so it's a little meaningless, but but you can see where Sevilla certainly has an opportunity to come back. And the last match that Ben and I both agreed on, Juventus 1-0 over Lyon. I did get to see most of this match. Juve really dominating this one. Just, for the most part, unlucky that they couldn't finish one in, finish more than one in Lyon. I don't see them having trouble coming back. I don't believe Juventus has lost at home yet. So I really see Juventus moving through. And they're the class of this field anyway, so I don't think we're going to have much of an issue there. Where Ben and I differed is the Valencia-Basel matchup. And Valencia, who I had chosen to move forward, losing this match at St. Jacob Park to Basel 3-0. We had Delgado in the 34th minute and in the 38th minute, and then Stalker adding an extra goal for Basel in the 90th minute in injury time. Looking at the statistics from this match, Valencia, 54% of the possession. Shots were in favor of Basel, 10-6, and shots on goal, 6-3 for Basel. So we're really, in terms of my prediction, I'm not feeling very comfortable about Valencia moving through on this one. I really thought that they were going to do it, but it looks like Ben's going to get me in the Europa League, and I'm going to get him in the Champions League. So those matches, the follow-up matches are going to be this Thursday at 3 o'clock. Again, Alkmaar at Benfica, Lyon at Juventus, Porto at Sevilla, and Basel at Valencia. And I don't see any of these 8 teams left. Maybe Benfica, but I don't see any of these 8 teams left, or any of these 7 challenging Juventus. It's really their tournament to lose at this point. So that'll close out our Europa. We'll obviously revisit Europa and Champions League next week when we get back to work with Ben. And we'll go through our predictions and results and see how we did and see if we've got any exciting football to report to you from earlier in the week. So, Sir Bob's Man City Corner. Let's talk about... I had 2 options for this one, Sir Bob. Obviously I know you're still in the chat there. Spain, England, Germany, and France are top 4. If we're going to talk about the top 10 matches, let's just discuss that real quick while you're in chat, unless you wanted to call in. While you're in chat and I'm prepping to do the Man City match. If I had to pick teams that were better than Juventus in Europe, and I'm going to take Juventus because they're obviously going to win the Serie A. I would take PSG, no doubt about it. It's the only team I would take from France that's better. Monaco certainly isn't better than them. I would certainly take Bayern Munich. I don't think anybody could take anybody over Bayern Munich at this point. They're the class of the world right now. But I wouldn't necessarily take Dortmund over Juventus. I mean, let's give it to you just for argument's sake. Let's put Dortmund in that argument, but I don't think it's the case. Let's go to Spain. And in Spain, I would certainly do Atletico, I would do Real Madrid, and I would do Barcelona. No doubt about any of those 3. Maybe Atletico, I might consider, Juventus a little closer. And then we've got the England teams. Man City, certainly. Chelsea, certainly. And Liverpool, Liverpool is high-flying right now. But I just don't think that there's a team that's strong enough defensively in the EPL to really combat them. But I will be happy to give you Liverpool. I will not give you Arsenal. Arsenal does not have a striker that can finish. Olivier Giroud is just not that guy. If you compared him to Juventus, player for player, Juventus is going to be stronger in the midfielder. They're certainly stronger in the back line. Juventus is stronger in the goal, and Juventus' score is a better scoring option. Juventus ranked ahead of Man City according to ESPN. I'm not convinced of that. And ESPN you always have to take with a grain of salt. In the last power rankings, you're saying Juventus is 7th. I'd say in the 9 teams that I just named with Juventus, I would say they're all close and interchangeable. I don't know that I'd put Juventus ahead of Man City. And I'm not going to get into the argument with you because we could be here all week. But I personally would probably take, if they had to play a home-on-home, I would take City over Juventus, and I would think it would be very close. But I would take City over Juventus, and I'm a Juventus fan. I think I would take Juventus over Liverpool, though, and I think I think the Chelsea-Juventus match would be very, very close. I would take Juventus over Atletico Madrid. I would take Barca and Real Madrid over Juventus. I would take PSG over Juventus. I would take Bayern Munich over Juventus. And I would probably say Juventus over Dortmund. But again, that would be another close one as well. And again, SirBob, you put in the chat, City is 8th according to the ESPN Power Rankings. Liverpool is 6th according to the ESPN Power Rankings. And I can see if I can get those things punched up here quickly. But do you believe in that? Do you believe Liverpool is a better team than City right now? And Chelsea's not even in the top 10. So, do you believe? Do you believe that's the case? I don't see it. I'm just not there yet. Everybody's looking at where Liverpool is in the standings, and they've done a great job. Thank you, SirBob. Always count on you to help me out. I just want to, while we're here, and I'm just gonna, because obviously the Liverpool Man City game is the last segment of the show. So this is Shaka Hislop's top 10 power rankings. He's got Bayern Munich 1. I think everybody would have Bayern Munich 1. He's got PSG 2. Again, I said last week, not enough people are talking about this PSG team. It shocks me. The talent is there. And I also don't necessarily agree with what Jeff Douglas said earlier. He had mentioned that Hugo Lloris is definitely leaving Tottenham and going to PSG. I don't think that Lloris is that much of a better option than Salvatore Sirigu. Sirigu's good. Maybe Lloris is better, but I don't know that he's worth it to throw the money at to go ahead and do something like that. So that's just, again, personal opinion. I think there are other goalies out there that they would rather have than Hugo Lloris. I know it's the French thing, but I just don't see it. Atletico Madrid, 3rd place. I think this is a little high. Barca in 4th place. I think you probably want to interchange these two. Real Madrid, just based on their form, is 5th. Excuse me for 1 second. And based on their recent form, I would put Real Madrid probably a little lower on the current rankings. Liverpool 6th. Okay, Juve 7th. Ahead of Man City, Benfica, and Roma. And you're right, SirBob. No Chelsea there. There's also no Dortmund. There's only one German team there. I thought Dortmund was playing reasonably well, although obviously they stumbled. And the football database, SirBob has just sent over to me the world rankings based on football database, and this is a page I have to actually bookmark eventually. So here and of course I see why you like this one so much better. Munich, according to Football Database, Munich number 1, Madrid 2. I think that is way off. I don't think Madrid is the number 2 team in the world right now. I think I would put Barcelona ahead of them. I would put PSG ahead of them. I might even consider putting Liverpool ahead of them, although I'm not fond of it. And I would even consider throwing Chelsea in that mix. But just to show you how far these are off, I get that you like these ones better, but Madrid 2, Barca 3, PSG 4, Man City 5. And then Juventus 6th, Atletico 7th, and I would put Juventus ahead of Atletico. I'd probably put them ahead of Liverpool. I'm not convinced I would put them ahead of Chelsea. I'd put them ahead of Benfica. I would put them ahead of Roma. I'd put them ahead of against Man U. I'd put them ahead of Everton, ahead of Dortmund, ahead of Arsenal, ahead of Napoli, Schalke, Shakhtar. I would put them ahead of all of those. So, which is kind of what I said earlier. I would not rank them ahead City. I wouldn't rank them ahead of PSG, Barca, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. This is pretty much on the money from what I was saying, except maybe Chelsea's a little higher. Atletico 7th, Liverpool 8th, Chelsea 9th, Benfica rounding out your top 10. Benfica, I think, is a little high here. I would probably put Dortmund ahead of them. I would consider putting Arsenal ahead of them. And I'm just scrolling down quickly just to take a quick look. But that's probably all of them. I don't think I'd put Roma ahead of them just yet. There's potential though. Roma's very strong in the midfield, so I would consider that. But certainly, and I would certainly put Benfica ahead of United, especially on current form. I don't see United playing that well, but United 12th on this list. United's not even United's 8th in their own league, and behind teams like Everton, behind Arsenal, and I'm just scrolling through here to look at behind Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur 22nd on this list. So I don't know, this particular list I'm not entirely fond of. I'm not a real big fan of Shaka Hislop's list either, but I think Shaka's list is probably a little closer to the mark. I think he's got City a little low. I think he's got Roma a little high. And I don't agree with the fact that Chelsea's not on the list. I think he's probably got Benfica a little high too. So but these are two great resources, SirBob. I'm going to copy these links and put them in my plan for next week. And SirBob, you think the second list is right on? You would really, just thinking about it, you would rate let's look at 7th and 8th on that list on the football database. You would put Atletico behind Liverpool. I'm not convinced I would do that. I think that's, I don't know, maybe we're really picking straws here. But you think the top 10, you do like the top 10, so you do like that Benfica spot at 9 and Roma at, I'm sorry, where's my list here? Benfica at 10, you like Chelsea at 9. I could see that. I guess from like 8 to 11, you could probably interchange those four teams and not really be punished. And then I would say 7 to 4, Atletico, Juve, City, and PSG. Maybe Real Madrid I think is a little too high on this list. I think that's probably the biggest issue. Atletico's ahead of Liverpool. Hang on a second, let me go back. Yes, I'm sorry. Atletico is ahead of Liverpool. Sorry about that. I think I was talking about maybe Juventus ahead of Atletico, or at least looking at it that way. But again, the only real issue I have with the football database list is that Madrid, I think they have a little too high. Other than that, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they should be dropped down. I think maybe Madrid should be in that 5th spot and shift everybody up one. So Bayern 1, Barca 2, PSG 3, City 4, Madrid 5. I would probably go Athletic 6, Juve 7th, although that's close. Liverpool 8th. Maybe Chelsea 8th, Liverpool 9th, and Benfica 10. That's probably how I'd have them. I'd also consider maybe throwing Dortmund in ahead of Benfica, but that's really about it. So yeah, SirBob, I think you're right. I think and Juve and Atletico virtual tie. Yeah, it's only 3 points separating them, so I guess they're pretty close. Yeah, I do agree with you. Let's I don't know how old this particular list is or how often they update it. But I would probably like to see this on the next update to decide, to look at it again. So that's again, I'm going to copy these links after the show, and I put them into my. I'm going to put what I do is I like to make a list of all the different links that I use most frequently, and these two are certainly going to be them. So updated after the matches on April 6th. Okay, so that was just updated this weekend. So we can come back and look at it again next week and see if there's any change. We can I can write down the list, and then we can see if there's any change to the list after that. So let's get into the Liverpool Man City match. If this isn't the biggest match of the weekend, I don't know what is. Certainly two teams competing for that top spot in the EPL. Looking at their recent 6 matches between each other, their last 6. Liverpool winning 1, City winning 2, and the teams drawing 3. Earlier in the year, it was the day after Christmas. It was City winning at home 2-1 over Liverpool. And looking at the results previously, they had 3 draws between each other. They were both 2-2 draws. Liverpool winning 1-0 at City. And that was back in 2012. And then City on a red card beating Liverpool in that 2012 season as well, 3-0. So those are the last 6 matches for these two teams. Yeah, and I agree. I think it is the biggest mouth-watering a matchup. It does concern me, though. I'm just going to take a look at your comments as you put them up here. Looking at their recent form, Liverpool has won their last 6 matches, and obviously City with the draw against Arsenal, winners of 5 of their last 6. City, really their only loss recently, they lost to Barcelona 2-1. Looking at the rest of the scores here, they lost to Barcelona 2-1. They defeated Hull, even though they were on a red card, 2-0. They defeated Fulham 5-0. They defeated United 3-0. The draw against Arsenal, and then they beat Southampton this weekend. So really the only loss that they have in all competitions is to Barcelona, which is a decent side. City being led by Yaya Toure with 18 goals. Sergio Aguero on 15. I don't know, SirBob, you might know if he's back or if he's still injured. I thought he was supposed to be back for this match at this point. Edin Dzeko on 11 goals as well. If you go over to Liverpool, really getting their goals from 2 spots. Luis Suarez on 29, Sturridge on 20, Steven Gerrard on 13. Mostly penalty kicks for Gerrard, but he's on the list there. Suarez also creating goals. I mean, SirBob, I've got to ask you, with everything that's happened, we've got 5 matches to go. Is Luis Suarez the player of the year in the EPL? I've got to think he is. He's got 29 goals, 11 assists, leads Liverpool in both categories. City's assists coming from David Silva with 9, Jesus Navas with 7, and Kolarov with 6. So this one's really a tough match to pick. And let me just see where they're playing this match. I can't remember. I think they're playing it at Liverpool. I believe that is correct. They are playing this match at Anfield, which is a disadvantage to City. City's a much better home team than they are a road team. But SirBob, I can't do it to you. I just cannot pick against Man City, and I especially can't do it in the Man City corner. I think it actually, I might lose my license to do radio if I did that. So I'm going to take the political route, and it seems to be a common score with these two teams, so I'm going to take it. I'm going to take Liverpool and City to draw, and you know me, I almost never take a draw, but I'm going to take Liverpool and City to draw 2-2. And to be honest with you, if we do see a 2-2 draw in this match, I think that's a victory for City. I think they'll still have the 2 games at hand. They wouldn't have lost any points to Liverpool. Liverpool wouldn't have gained any points on them. So really going to be a big deal if they can manage to pull out a 2-2 draw in this one, not lose goal differential, not lose the match, continue on. They've got the 2 games at hand still, and I think they're against like Sunderland and West Brom. They're really easy matches that they should win. I think City, worst case scenario for City is to lose, but certainly a draw is a great result for them at this point, and I think that's the way I'm going to go. So, and then also you take away the ability for Liverpool to get a result at Anfield, which is going to be something as well. It's going to be a big issue. So that's the way I'm going to go 2-2. So let's close out SirBob's Man City Corner. SirBob, I think next week, unless you have something else you'd want to hear about or talk about, look 5 matches of the season for City, for Liverpool, and for Chelsea, and kind of maybe with Ben hash out in the corner what we think is going to happen. Try to predict the last 5 matches. Try to predict who the champion's going to be. May try to do that as well in La Liga, where we have a close match with 3 teams at the end there as well. The other leagues, PSG, Italy, PSG, Juventus, and Munich are pretty much locked into the positions. So let's hit the closing music. So again, I wish Ben was here and he wasn't able to make it tonight, but he'll certainly be back next week. Thanks to Jeffrey Douglas for coming on the show. You can follow him on Twitter at JDL382. Friend of the show, he was a good again. So.